Hi everyone, welcome to the first session of core programming, that is your HTML part. Let's begin with a wonderful website that I want to show you. That was the first website that ever created. I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay, so just give me a hands up or in a chat if you're able to view my screen. Perfect. So this was the first website that was ever created. You can see that this website over here, we can see uh, created by certain developers. That was Tim Berners-Lee, who founded World Wide Web. The best part about this website is created using only HTML, nothing more, only HTML. And you can create websites using only HTML. The difference is there are two types of websites. Before moving to HTML part, let's cover what type of websites there are. There are two types of website. Number one is your static website. Static websites are which are built using only front-end technologies. That is your HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript. So this is HTML. So when any website is using only the front end part, only these three technologies, it is called static website. And why is it called static? Because it is not getting in touch with the database or the backend language. No database, no backend language use, no backend used. So those websites are called static websites. How to check if a particular website is static or not? Any website which does not involve the user, which does not involve any interaction from the user side, like making an account or posting some comments or adding some tweets. So those websites are called static websites. In those websites, there is no role of backend or database. So the other website is called the dynamic website. So it's dynamic website. The dynamic websites are the one which use this part. Let's say this is the front end part. Plus, they use the backend and database part, backend and database. So those websites involve the interaction from the user end as well. That is, if the user wants to post something, if user wants to fetch some data, if user want to access their account, those websites are called dynamic websites. We use dynamic websites all the time, like your Amazon.com, Facebook.com, Netflix. You have content specific to your own I would say wish list. You can create a wish list as per a specific account. That is dynamic website. On the other hand, the websites which does not involve any interaction from the user end is called static website. Let me show you the example over here, that how to check what technology a particular website is using. So we know if we right click over here and we go to inspect, you can see there is no styling being applied. The general styling from the web page, that's it. Apart from that, only thing that we have is the HTML part. The HTML begins from here, ends over here, nothing more. So this was the first website, and how they connected web pages through hyperlinks. These are the hyperlinks. They are taking you to the another web page. Just focus on the URL part. They're taking you to the another web page of same website. The website is not changing at all. The website over here is not changing. This one, it's not changing. If I click another particular hyperlink, I'm being redirected to some other web page. So this is static website which does not gather data from database. And using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can create static websites. If you are using backend language, like your Node.js, if you're using database like MongoDB, then those websites are called dynamic websites, right? So any questions regarding static or dynamic websites? So one question that we are getting is, when was it created? I think around 1990s, 1991, when World Wide Web was formed, when World Wide Web was incorporated. At that time, the first website created was this one, the hypertext project, my project HTML, this one. This was the first website. And this is the developer tool that we would be using in the entire course. through HTML, CSS. As of now, just remember you can create websites only using HTML also. But these are not preferred by companies, because every time a company wants to collect a data from particular users' preferences. And to do that, they use the backend languages. Moving ahead, the next website that I want to show you is the official documentation. The official documentation of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the front-end documentation. It's the MDN website, MDN Web Docs. This is the official documentation. Whenever you face any issues while performing some code, while writing some code, the best website to visit first is the official documentation. And many times, I've seen many times developers refrain from reading the official documentation. But I'm telling you, if you want to be a successful developer, get used to reading documentations. Documentations have everything regarding the language, everything. So this is the official documentation for your front end part, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It has everything, right from HTML basics to HTML elements and other things as well. So you have all these tags, elements, everything over here. So this is the documentation that you need to come whenever you're facing some issue, you want to learn something new and which you have not practiced before. So you can go to, suppose you are studying HTML tables. You can go to HTML tables and see what HTML table is, how to create one. Everything is mentioned over here. This is HTML basics, like HTML table basics. What is a table? How does it look? What we can do with a table? And some other work as well. How does table work? Everything is provided. How you can style a table, and many more things that you want to learn. And you've not, because coding is very vast. It's very vast. Not a single, there's no single course that can cover everything. We can cover all the major parts, but to enhance your knowledge, you have to visit documentations and read. When you are working on something particular in HTML and you want to dive deeper and deeper, documentations are a place to go. I'll share the link in the chat. Allow me just one moment. Yeah. So this is the HTML part. I'll quickly share the link in the chat. So this link, do save it, bookmark it. It would be very helpful at all points of time. Okay, so let's move ahead and let's come back to the previous website. Now, what I want to show you over here is all these things, all the text over here is called one or the other element. So if I just mark it down, so all the text, this is one element. This is another element. Your hyperlink is one of the elements. This text is another element. This hyperlink is another element. So all these are elements. So if we see how HTML is structured, HTML is divided into two parts, head and body. Head is something which does not reflect on your web page. So if I write it over here, let's say this is my HTML. It is divided into two parts. Number one, first part is your head. Sorry, head. And the second part is your body, right? So body is all the content that you see on web page, right from this part, right from the top to the bottom of your web page, whatever you see is body. Head, which contains additional information about the web page, as well as all those parts which are not visible on the web page. For instance, this title you see over here is a part of your head. This is not visible over here, the web page area, but it is visible on the tab area. So this comes under your head. Let's say we can write title over here. Or if we want to link CSS file with our HTML, then the link to CSS file comes over here. And all the other information. So we would very quickly see what head and body is when we will go to our VS Code setup. So just make sure you understand every HTML is divided into head and body. Body is the entire content that you see on web page, right from the top of the web page to the bottom, whatever you see. If it's an image, if it's a text, anything that you see on web page is your body, right? So any questions related to your head and body? Head is something that you do not see on web page. It is some additional information. It can be some linking to some other files and some other information also, metadata we call. We would see head and body while when we would go to the VS Code part. But as of now, understand HTML is composed of two parts,
Ah,
your head and body.
这谁？
Okay. Now, the main point to note over here is, hi. Can everyone please mute their microphones? So now the main part to note over here is the structure. How is HTML structured? So HTML is structured something like this. This is first part. Now over comes here, suppose this is my head, I would call it second, and this is my body, I would call it third. And now this is further, we have some paragraph over here, some image over here, let's say some video over here, and so on. These parts are called elements. These parts, this part, the HTML part and the body part and the content between them and the head part and so on, all this title part are called elements. We would see how an element looks in VS Code. So these are elements, and elements are connected to one another. The element at the topmost part is called your root element. This is your root element. And this root element is always the HTML. It's always the HTML. This is your root element. So remember these details, and we would be seeing them in VS Code. So root element is the topmost element. All the content and body lie, all the content and head part lies within the root element, right? And how we are going to, how we understand a web page is being formed, the next part comes over here. I'll quickly clear my screen. Should I clear my screen? Everyone comfortable with what we discussed so far? HTML composed of two parts, head and body. Head not visible on web page. Body, entire content. The topmost part of your HTML structure is root element. And further, these are child elements. It is called parent element. These are child elements and so on. And they're all connected. This is your head, this second part, and this is your body, right? So shall I clear my screen? Any questions? Okay. So let's move ahead. Now, what I want to show you is how this web page gets designed. What is the very basic process behind it? So if I have to structure it, I would say, suppose you have some raw information. You have some data with you, information with you. This is all data, right? Here, this one is all data. Right now, you have it in very unstructured form. You have it in your notepad, you have it in on your email address or anywhere. You have very unstructured data in text form, images clubbed together. So we can call it as raw data. Now you play your part. This is you and this is the developer. Now we can club this data, we collect this data and put it in the coding format. In our VS Code, we are putting it in some nice coded format. So I would say like this. These are all the coding brackets. Just assume as of now, we'll see how they look. This is all the content. This is the content. And these are my elements. So this is the markup form. This is the markup form, the coded form, markup form, or we can say HTML form. And this HTML form is further displays as the web page. Suppose this is some image, this is some video, this is some text, and this is your footer area. This is web page. So over here, some CSS happens, some JavaScript happens, which we are not considering as of now. We would be studying that part later. Right now, our job is to take care of this markup form. So the raw data that we have to put it in markup form. To put it in markup form, we are using some code editors like VS Code. So That is how we are converting a raw data into some language which our browsers can understand, which our computers can understand. So that is what markup language is. When you're converting raw data into some structured format, which can be understood by machines and browsers, is called your markup language. So the HTML part provides the structure to our web page. Earlier it was raw. Now we have structured it into some specific format. This is providing structure to our web page. Like heading should come over here, hyperlink should come over here. My first text element should come over here, then second, then third, and so on. So this is a very basic website to understand how HTML is working, how a markup is created. So any questions in this? What HTML is doing? And to make it happen, we are using code editors. So just remember, raw data is converted into structured format using code editor, and that format is called HTML language, HTML markup. And that markup is further used to create a web page. Any questions? Should we move ahead? Just put a yes in chat. Perfect. Moving on, if we want to see the difference between static and dynamic, we have another website over here, right? I'll just switch it over there and let me show you. I'll clear my screen. Yeah. So just see over here. You can see some options like already a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to our list. When you will subscribe to this list, your data would be added somewhere in the server, and that is database server. And whenever you want to access the content as per your account, the web page would request the data from the database server. This makes it a dynamic website. So this part is making it a dynamic website. This is one of the part. And you must have seen, suppose you open Netflix today, you are seeing some particular video recommendations, right? Some video recommendations. After a week, if you open, these recommendations change. They tell you, okay, what is new and trending. Those trending videos change on weekly basis or monthly basis as per their rules and protocols. So that content is changing. When the content is changing on regular basis or on runtime basis, that makes it dynamic. So for static websites, if you want to make some changes, then you have to change the structure code, the code written on VS codes or that have been stored in the repositories. Developer has to change that code. Now, if you want to see some changes on dynamic website, you can just switch to some other account. Now you can have 4 accounts on Netflix, and each account will have different recommendations as per their interests. So that is dynamic website. When users data is used to change the content, that makes it dynamic, right? And now we are moving to the HTML part. For the using HTML part, we can create static websites like this. Only HTML part, we can create static websites like this, and we would see these examples. Now when we will code, we'll start seeing how our website is being created. We can create a particular web page on certain topic. Like it could be your computers, its facts, and let's say parts of computers. You're creating a web page on parts of computers. Then we can create a website like this one with only HTML as of now. It is called static website, right? Okay. So let's move on to the actual coding part. Now we understand what HTML is, and HTML has two parts, head and body, and each of this part is called an element. Each of these text element, your heading element, hyperlink element. Now let's see how they actually look when we are dealing with the HTML language. So let's move to the VS Code part. I'll quickly open the VS Code. Okay. Let's do one thing. I'll minimize this and I'll keep it over here. Okay. Okay. So everyone has VS Code installed in their systems, right? There's no one who is not having VS Code as of now, or anyone with who faced any issues. I hope we were able to install it yesterday. We tried to solve everyone's issues as well regarding VS Code. Now let's move ahead and see how we create a project, how we initialize a project in HTML. The first part is to open a folder. So this is the part where you come in. You have to open a folder. This folder is the place where you will store your files, your HTML files, CSS files, and so on. So this is the folder. So we can create one using Visual Studio Code, or if you have already some folder which you have decided that you would be using for a particular project, you can open that one. There are multiple ways to open a folder. First is this one, click this icon, this blue one, or you can go to File and click Open Folder as well. There are shortcuts also, this one. And wonderful thing with the shortcuts that came to my mind, you have shortcuts on VS Code. You can check shortcuts also. So let me see if I'm able to check that one. Okay, yeah, over here, just see keyboard shortcuts. When you go to the help section and you click the keyboard shortcuts reference, a web page would open. This web page, I'll see if I'm able to. I'll quickly download this one and show you in a zoomed version. Okay. So let's, right. So this web page would open. These are the keyboard shortcuts related to your VS Code. So I would not recommend you learning every code by heart. You need not learn that. But whenever you feel that, okay, this thing should be performed using only keyboard, it would increase your speed. Just come to this page and check if you have that shortcut over here. And once you find that shortcut, just implement it. So this is a nice way when you're not having much work to do and you think, okay, let's learn a single shortcut for the day. You can go by one shortcut a day. That's it. Do not memorize every shortcut because we do not need every shortcut all the time. So just a basic web page that way they have provided, wherein you can find shortcuts related to the display, shortcut related to the multi-cursor, and so on. We would be using some of them while we will code. And at that point of time, you can see how the following shortcuts are helping us. So a nice way to get more accustomed with your VS Code setup. So you can download it. Just go to the view page, go to the help page, and over here, click keyboard shortcuts reference. So let's close this as of now. Okay. Now let's start with the first HTML file. Let's see how everything is working. So I'll quickly open a folder. When I open a folder, it would take me to my folders region where I can select where do I want to create a folder. I'll just go to desktop and I'll create a new folder. Let's say I'll name it as Bootcamp. And in Bootcamp, I create another folder and I'll name it as HTML CSS. The first part that we are dealing with. So I will select this folder and I will open it. When I click this, I might get this message. This is just an uh, informational message that do you trust this folder? Do you want a VS Code to open this folder every time without you asking? So I can just say, okay, trust the authors and all files in the parent folder, Bootcamp. All the files that are present in Bootcamp folder, just open them and click, yes, I trust the authors. And over here, you will see the name of the folder. So I'll quickly mark it with pen. So over here, you would see this one. This is the name of the folder. This is the region where all the files would come. All files would come over here, this region. You see this Explorer region, this one. This is the region we would be getting all the files, HTML, CSS, and so on. We would be creating files now, but just understand the interface. And this is the region where all the files would open and we would be writing the code. As of now, this is the general opening file, how to get started and so on. You can close this file also. So we can close this file. So, right. So this is the region where all the files would come over here. So this is to open the files or close the files, the list of files. Here, the coding area. This is your coding space. Okay. Now let's see how we are going to use it. Okay. Moving ahead, we have opened the folder. We are in the Explore area. We can minimize it, maximize it, and according to our choice. Okay. Let's create our first file. How to create the first file? Just click over here. There, you must be seeing some options over here. If you click this one, a pop-up would open. You have to write the name of the file. Let's say I write, let's say first file .html. HTML is the extension. The name of the extension of all the HTML files is .html. This is my first file I've created. By default, the main file that we create is called index.html. So right now I've just created it so that we can check, okay, this is my first file. This is the second file, how I'm using it. So anyone having any confusion regarding how to open a folder and how to create your first file. So you can see a cursor have appeared over here. This is where we will code. So it would allow you to code. This is where you can open the file, access the file, and so on. And whenever you see this circle over here, you see this white circle over here. So this one, if I'll just remove this. So the white circle, this white circle means your file is not saved. So if you click Control S, you see my circle goes away. That shows my file is saved. So whenever you see any empty circle on the top of the file name, next to the file name, that means your file is not saved. And always have a habit to continuously keep saving your file after certain point of time. Like if you have written certain lines of code, save your file. Then certain lines of code, save your file, so that you never lose your code in case the VS Code crashes. Okay, so this is the first file that we have created. Let's write a very simple line of code. Right now, do not focus on what I have written, just see. So let's say I write a heading. I will just talk about H1 and other things. I'm just showing you how it is working. This is I will just write web page. Okay. Now the white circle shows my file is not saved. I'll quickly save my file. My file is saved. Did you notice one thing? Suppose I have these empty spaces. Now, if I click Control Save, my code goes to the right position. This is happening because of the Prettier. The Prettier extension that we installed, this is because of that. Now let's run this line of code on the web page. How to do it? There are multiple ways. The first way is to go this at the bottom of your page. At the very bottom, you can see a Go Live icon. This one. You can either click this one. It shows you click to run live server. So live server we installed yesterday, right? Now to the other way is just right click over here and you can see open with live server. So if I click open with live server, you can your code would run on web page. And the third option is follow this shortcut. Press Alt L, Alt O, and your code would be displayed on web page. These shortcuts might differ for the Mac and Windows system. So better is open that shortcut page, keyboard shortcuts, and check how to open with live server on that shortcut page. Or whenever you would right click over here, your operating system would show the shortcut related to this particular command, live server. So if I click on live server, just see a web page would open over here. This web page has opened. I'll just quickly remove these warnings. Now this web page, note the address. 127.0.0.1 is the address of my local computer. Every local computer has this address. This tells the browser that I'm running my web page locally. I'm not visiting to any external server. My browser knows that I have created my own computer as a temporary server. Now this is the port number. 5500 is the port number. So if I create, for instance, if I create another file, just a second, I'll just write second.html. And over here, I create another heading. And I write this is second page. Now I'll save this file. Now, if I open this file on live server, it would ask me, okay, I already have another file, and this file has been opened. So just see, every time my file is opening over here at this port, even if I open the second page, my file is opening at this server at this port. So this particular web address, this particular number that you see refers to the computer from which locally a website is being run. So Shekib is saying that the live server is not providing the live reload without head or body tag. That must be due to some like I'm also getting this warning. Shekib, you can see at the bottom, live reload is not possible without head or body tag. Uh, that's completely okay. Right now, live reload only means if I write something else over here, let's say H3, and if I write this is the third heading, and if I hit save, this would not show it over here. This would not enable it. Okay. So we'll keep 5 minutes after certain point of time. Like if I'll cover certain topics, we'll keep 5 minutes. At that point of time, we'll take the doubts. Would that be okay for everyone? That would be good. So we'll not take doubts in between. I'll cover certain topics. I'll give 5 minutes for doubts and sharing screen, and then we'll cover the next topic, right? Would that be okay? Perfect. So live rule reload, the error is because of head and body. Head and body, we understood every HTML structure has two parts, head and body. Now VS Code understands the HTML language. It has been designed to understand it. Whenever it encounters something different from the followed structure, it provides us the warning that you might face these issues. So live reload, if I reload this one, I'm getting this part. But if I've followed the correct structure, then this particular reload functionality would have happened automatically because of live server. We would see that with head and body tag. So what I want to tell you now is we have covered the URL part over here. Just see, this is the path from which the data is being extracted. Second.html is this file from which this particular data was extracted. First.html is the path from where this particular data was extracted, right? So this is the part from where HTML is getting my data. So looking at the URL, you can check, okay, from where am I getting, what is the port number, and what is the server address. So here 127.0.0.1 is the local server. Port is the request coming from that particular server. It identifies with a particular number, 5500, and then the path. So this is the basic running of first file. Now, this is not what actual HTML code looks like. Before we jump into it, let's have 2 to 3 minutes for doubts. So because I think some of us are facing few doubts. Before moving ahead, let's cover those doubts first. Okay. So do put it in chat one by one so that I can answer your doubts accordingly. Perfect. Perfect. And Shakib, I'm telling you, this is the best way. Whenever you face some issues, just try something this, something that, something this, something that, Google it and everything. And you would be able to fix your errors most of the time. I'm telling you the biggest quality a good developer can have, how to Google your doubts correctly. There is an art of Googling, right? You because everything has been done before, everything has been happening even right now, and people are there who are putting their issues and solving them. You have been provided with entire material on Google. But the point is, we need to understand that we would be facing some issues and we need to learn how to search that on internet. Internet has everything for us. Okay. Omid is saying that my VS Code did not fix the spaces and did not show the live server option and also the live option too. So Omid, did you set up the prettier as your default formatter like we did in the settings? Or what option you can do is whenever you're facing that your VS Code is not able to format it, you can just
Excuse
right
me
click
a
over
moment.
here. You can just right click over here and you would see an option format document with. Whenever you click this option, your VS Code would provide the formatters already available. So I have this prettier formatter and I have this default formatter. So I'll click prettier formatter and it would format my code. And in case you want to do it automatically, just go to the settings and in settings, write default formatter. And over here, select prettier. The default formatter option editor, select prettier. We did this in last section. Check this if you have selected prettier as your code formatter. And for live server option, have you installed the live server extension? This extension I'm referring to, this one. Like I have installed it and now it is showing me if I want to uninstall it or disable it. Have you installed this live server extension? Okay. So can any one of you please share your screen so that we can check what issues you're facing? So explanation on H1, we would be coming to that. Post this doubt, we would be coming to H1 only. What is H1? Why we call it H1? How many types are there? And many more things. So just so that everyone is able to use the live server. So I'll quickly stop sharing my screen. Any one of you who is facing live server issue, kindly share your screen. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Do you saw my screen?
I'm not able to see the entire VS Code right
Oh,
now. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that would be good.
So the
Perfect.
thing is, like, first when I came here and I open a random
Uh,
folder, so
um,
like the coding is not working. Oh, and also when
just
I do the
okay.
right click, there is no
Who do
uh
we? Okay, Elham, right?
yeah.
Okay. The issue is, do you see there is no folder opened at the top left corner? You see there is no folder open.
Mm-hmm.
You have to first open a folder. Like you can create a new folder over here, pre-existing folder in which you want to save the files, right? Just name it basics or anything. HTML, CSS, right? Do not put dot or commas, just put a hyphen because as per normal naming syntax, yeah, this would work. Perfect. Open this folder from, yeah. Now you just click the above checkbox first, trust the authors from, yeah. Perfect. Now at the top left corner, you can see HTML, CSS being opened, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. Now next to it, create a file. Right.
This one?
Create a file. Yes. And name it first page.html. HTML.
Uh-huh.
Just click enter. Perfect. Now your HTML file is open. You can close the get started file.
Get started. Uh-huh.
Perfect. Now just type in H1, for instance. I would come to what H1 is. Yeah. You can see the emit. Elham, just can you just go back and type it again? I just want to show you something.
Oh,
Just type everything again. Just write H1. Do not hit enter as of now. Just write H1. Right. At the right side, you can see emit abbreviations. Everyone can see that, right? So this is the intelligent part of VS Code. It gives us recommendations. What are we trying to write? Is it a HTML part or whatever? Is it a JavaScript part? So if you just write H, just remove one. Ilham, just hit backspace once.
mm-hmm.
Perfect. Now you can see multiple H1, H2, H3, everything that starts with H. the VS Code is providing you. So if there are certain times when you know that what you want to write, but you do not want to write it the entire syntax for it, you can just write the first words and you can select the correct option. So over here you can select the H1 also. So this is the IntelliSense, right? Now write anything. Write this is my web page. Perfect. And you have to save your file. You can see on the top next to name, there is a white dot, white
This one?
circle. No, no,
This one?
on your coding file. Next, just come right. Yeah. This, do not click this one. This
Oh,
shows that your file is not saved. Just hit Control S.
Control S.
Click on the, yeah, you can see that circle is not now, not there now.
Where the
This
circle?
one, yeah, at the
Oh,
earlier.
here?
Yeah, earlier there was a white circle. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
just, yeah, now it has gone. It shows
Uh-huh.
that your file is saved.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Okay. Now right click, or you can see at the bottom right,
Oh, yeah, here's
there
a
is go
line.
live option, or you can open with live server also. Command L, Command O, you're getting the shortcut also.
Open with a live server. This one, yeah?
Yeah, just
Oh,
click this one and a web page would open. And this would show you the heading of your page. And on
oh,
the top, you can see the server address 127.0.1.
oh,
So, and it shows you the first page.html also and port number.
yeah. So also you was talking about this area, like the number and also the first page. So what was the
Right.
difference between these two?
So the first part, the number part, tells the browser that the request is coming from your local computer only.
Mm-hmm.
Worldwide, the address 127.0.0.1 has been decided as the address for local computers.
Oh, it's like
So,
IP.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it has been decided that if you're trying to run a dummy web page just to see how your website would look, then
Mm-hmm.
that website should be coming from local server, which your computer has been created by with the help of live server.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the other part, the textual part that says first page.html, that
Mm-hmm.
shows the path from where the data is coming. You have written a text, this is my first web page. The
Mm-hmm.
web browser is showing us that this is coming from first page.html. Like
Mm-hmm.
I created multiple HTML files, two
Mm-hmm.
HTML files. The second one, when I tried to run it on live server, it showed me the second page.html. So
Oh,
now I hope we are able to solve that issue, your live server one and your prettier one.
yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
anyone else facing that same issue? So we were able to solve this one, right? Any other issue?
This is Omid Rahul. Can I also share my page, my screen, because
Sure,
my
definitely.
default formatter is still the.
So sure, definitely, Omid, you
Okay.
can share. And Hamid,
Okay.
you're having same problem. Were you able to solve the problem while we were trying to figure it out for Elham?
Share the screen.
Hamid, your voice is not audible. So once Omid is able to solve his issue with the VS Code, we would share your screen. Okay. Okay. So Omid, yeah,
See, default formatter is prettier,
right, right.
but when, as you said, when
Mm-hmm,
when I can press Control S, it
mm-hmm.
doesn't format it automatically, like you said.
So are you pressing Control S right now?
Yeah, I did press Control S. See, I pressed 3 enters, and now I will
Mhm.
press Control S. It didn't bring any
Okay.
changes, and I don't
Okay.
see the live server thing also. And I followed all the steps that you said yesterday.
Okay. So just click on right click on the file.
Right here.
No, no, on the coding area.
Okay.
Okay, are we getting open with live server? So can you go to the extensions icon?
Sure.
Yeah. So the live server is not enabled. Just click on that one. Uh, the last one. The last one is the live server extension. Yeah.
Live server.
So it is not enabled right now. You have to enable it first.
Should I enable it
Yes,
here?
yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Now your live server has been enabled. And the prettier issue that we are facing, that might be because we're not using the head and body as of now. We'll just use it and we'll check. To check that, first go to just click right click. Yeah, there
Okay.
was an option format document with. Just right click on this page,
Mm-hmm.
format document with, middle option. Yeah,
Format
format
document.
document with the next one. Yes, click on this one, and we have prettier code formatter selected. So as of now, might be due to we are not using head and body. So we would just come to this once we are done with the head and body. If
Okay.
you're facing same issues, we'll correct that. And to
Okay.
check your live server is working, at the bottom right corner, there's an option go live on the blue bar. Yeah, just click on this and check if live server is working. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I think
A
it's
web page
working.
should open. Yeah, a web page should open.
Yeah, it did open. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, thank you
So
very
regarding
much.
prettier part, we would come to that. Might be due because we're not writing HTML as it is supposed to write, supposed to be written as of now. So we would come to this. Okay. Okay. So shall we move ahead? Or Hamid, you're still facing same issue. You can share your screen.
Okay.
No. Yes.
Ahmed, we cannot hear you. And yeah, you're sharing.
Okay, we have not set. Yeah, Hamid, now what you need to do is just close this file, get started one. No, 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 no. Do not close your VS Code. At the top left of this page, yeah, close this file. Click on open folder option that you're getting. Perfect. Now create a new folder. At the top, you can see a new folder option below your name. In this pop-up on the top left, it shows your name. Just yeah, below that name you can see an option new folder just below your name, right? Name this folder as HTML CSS. Select this folder. Perfect. Now the folder is open. Select trust the authors, yes, and yes, I trust the authors. Perfect. Now go to that folder option top left. You see the name of your folder, right? Next to it you see an icon. No, hover over it. Yeah, next to it you see an icon. Just click this one. Just yes, click this one and name it firstpage.html. Just click enter. Now over here, write some code like you write H1. Click this one, H1, select this one and write, this is my web page or this is first page. Perfect. Just control S your file, just save your file. And you can close the get started one on the top. Yeah, close this file. Now, I do not see if Prettier is installed or not. Just go to the extensions part on the left bar. You see a cube-like structure with boxes just below it. The last option, the last one. Yeah, this one. Click this one. And I do not see the extensions being installed. So you have to install. No, not this one. On the search bar. Yeah, the one that you were. Yes. First is live server and the other one is Prettier. Install this extension. Hamid, your
Yeah, they
voice is not
installed the
clear.
prettier as well.
Perfect. and install the Prettier extension also. Just scroll it down. Yes. Perfect. Now go to the settings option at the bottom left corner. No, at the same bar from where you selected the extensions one. To the extreme left. Go to the bottom part. Extreme bottom and left. Yes, click this settings. Over here, select settings. Write default format on the search settings. Yes, default format. No, there's some typing error over here. You have to just correct the mistakes. Right. Now you get the first option, editor, default formatter. Select, just click the drop down menu where you see the none written on the top option. Yeah, select this one and scroll down and find Prettier over here. Yeah, this one. Select this one. Perfect. And on the default format bar where you have written the default format, no, the above one where you just type default format, write format on save. You're getting the second option now. Yes, just go to the options that have popped up. The second editor option, second option. Yes, no, the above one, this one. Select this one, right? And I think we are done with this. Just you can write auto save also. Now go to the search bar and write auto save. Yes, over here, click and select on focus change. The third one, on focus. Yes, right. So these were the necessary settings. Now you can go back to your file, close this settings file. Yes, close this extend. Yes, and now at the bottom right, you can see two options. One is Prettier being set as your formatter in the blue bar. Yes, the Prettier has been set, and you can click go live. Now this should open a port at 5500. You must be seeing a web page at some other screen now.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now we all are able to view the basic web page on our screens, right? So let's move ahead. So let me share my screen. Okay, I'll quickly share my screen. So everyone able to view my screen, right? You're welcome, Hamid. Just give me a yes in the chat if everyone is able to view my screen. Okay. So now the question came in the chat is, what is H1? So let me move to that first, and then we would go to the original structure of HTML. So I'll quickly go to the first file and I'll just mark few things over here. Before going ahead, we remember this everything is an element, right? This everything we see is an element in HTML, and HTML has head and body. Body is everything that shows the content on web page. Head is the title part and other information. We would be coming to head and body later on. So now let's close this part as of now. I'm just focusing on the first web page. Let's understand what an element is, what is H1 and other things. So everything, this is like the heading that we are seeing on this page, right? So if I go back to this particular page, it shows World Wide Web. My page shows this is my web page. I could have written World Wide Web over here. So let me write World Wide Web, for instance, to make it same. And now I will just reload and This shows World Wide Web on my page. See, this is my page, this particular one, first file. And this is the original first website that was created. It shows World Wide Web. So same. So what is heading? Heading is an element. In HTML, everything that we see on web page is an element. Now let's understand the different, let's dissect the element. Let's understand different parts of element. So let's come over here. Now this entire thing, I'll just quickly add on some spaces to make it more clear. Yeah. So let's come to the element part. Okay. Well, let's do it. My other. So let's do it. So this part is the content. This part, these are the tags. I'm writing it over here. These are the tags. This H1 or this H1 with a forward slash. Now, the entire thing that is coming, this is an element. Now, this H1 that does not have a forward slash, it is called opening tag. And the H1 that has the forward slash, this is called closing tag. And the element, the name of the element is heading. So like you have used Word, Microsoft Word. If you go to the above panel over here, over there, you can find, you can set it as heading, different styles of heading and so on. And the number that you see along with H1 is the format size. Format size that has been predefined. So predefined, there are 6 types of formats that I would say font size. Sorry, this is not format size, this is font size. So the heading element goes from 1, 2, 3 up to 6. These are predefined. And if you want to format it other than this, then we use CSS. So we would come to CSS later part, but that can be done. Predefined, there are 6 font categories in which number 1 is the largest font, number 2 slightly smaller than that, number 3 smaller than second one, 4, 5th, 5th smaller than 4th, 4th smaller than 3rd, and 6th is the smallest one. So the point to note down over here is the entire thing that we see in HTML is element. Element has different parts. The first part is the opening tag. Opening tag does not have forward slash with it. Then comes the closing tag, this H1 that has the forward slash with it. And the content is always between opening and closing tag. The content always lies between your opening tag and closing tag. In between, there is content over here. So we'll write all the 6 headings, all the categories H1 till H6. Before we move ahead, are we clear what H1 is? H1 is abbreviation in HTML for heading element. If we want to write some heading on our page, then this is called the H1 tag or H2 tag or H3 or up till H6. These are predefined. We have abbreviated the heading, and whenever we want to write anything in HTML, an element is represented with opening tag and closing tag. So if I'll just go over here, I'll quickly pull up this screen. I'll clear this part, this one. So I'll clear this one. So just see. This is one of the heading. Now, if I go to the MDN web docs and we see different types of headings. This is one type of heading. The font is slightly smaller than this one. So if we move ahead, we might find some other headings. This is an heading. Another part, this is a heading. This is heading. This is another heading, which has slightly smaller fonts, and we can make it as a web link as well. So this is a heading. This is a heading, MDN part, or this could be a logo also. This is a logo. So there are different headings on each web page. Each heading can have different font size. Predefined fonts are 6, 1 to 6. We would see all fonts right now. But are we clear what H1 is? H1 is an abbreviation for setting up heading on the page. Okay, so I'll quickly clear my screen. So let's move ahead and see different types of headings. I'll come to my page and I'll write, just see I've written H, and you can see 6 headings being provided to you by default. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we'll write every heading, and let's say this is H2. Similarly, I'll write H3, H3. I'll write H4, H4. I'll quickly select H5, H5. And the last one, H6, H6. I'll quickly save my page. Because I've not put my code in head and body, it is not live reloading for me. So we would understand after this concept, we would understand what head and body is and how actual structure of HTML looks like. So I'll quickly reload my page and see. So just see different fonts. Heading, this is a World Wide Web, or we can just copy paste and create another H1 heading and would name it as H1. And we would just name it H1. So this is my heading 1. This is my heading 2. This is my heading 3. What differentiates them is the font size. And H1 till H6 are predefined. If you want something other than that, then you need to use CSS, that is styling part. Once we are done with HTML, we would come to CSS also. Once we cover the basics, we would incorporate CSS, and then we would move ahead so that you understand how HTML and CSS are working. So as of now, this was one of the elements. So your web page does not have a single element. It can have this logo. It can have this advertisement being popped up. It can have these hyperlinks. So this is one of the elements. This is one of the elements. That's it. That is heading. So I've opened a very basic page. So if let's say I open wikipedia.com and I search computers over here. Now, so let's expand it a little bit more. Now this web page does not have a single element. This is one element, the heading element that we discussed. There are other elements. These are your hyperlinks. These are your paragraphs. Then this is your image. These are another paragraphs. This is another image, footer, and so much more. You have these boxes, box-like style to set up the contents. We can make boxes with HTML. We can do so much stuff that we see. Whatever you see on a web page, you can add a video as well to your web page. So we would be doing all that. We have just understood what one element looks like. What are different parts of element? So I'll just minimize it a little bit more. So now I'll quickly recap different parts. So Mustafa is asking, heading is not covering the rest of content. That's exactly right. Heading is just covering this part, the heading part. Heading is designed only for covering the major part. If you're considering the other text, for those text we have paragraph element. We would be coming to different elements. So for these kind of text, we have paragraph element. Like we have heading element, we have paragraph element as well. We have hyperlinks for these kind of links and so on. So let's quickly recap. This entire thing is an element. Name of this element is heading. Every element has two parts. First is your opening tag. Second is your closing tag. And the matter in between the opening and closing tag is the content. Now, the best part to note over here is you do not see these syntaxes on your web page. These are for your browser to understand. These are for the VS Code to understand. You only see this part, the content part. If I go back to our web page, this was the one, right? You only see the content part. So whenever you're writing some HTML, these tags would not be displayed. These are just for your browser and your VS Code to understand. Only the content part would be displayed on your web page. So content is the one that is being displayed, and these tags are providing a way to write that content in a structured format. We are telling the browser, okay, this is my heading, and if it is an H1, display it like this. This is my heading. If this is an H4, display it like this. So we are telling the browser how to display. These tags tell the browser how to display. The element tell the browser how to display, and it displays only the content, right? So this is one of the element. Any questions regarding H1, H2, H3 heading element, or what an element is? Forget about what H1, H2 as of now. Just understand each element is composed of these parts. Opening tag, closing tag. How to identify a closing tag? You would have this forward slash. This slash that you see, this forward slash, the difference between H2 and this forward slash H2, the one with the forward slash is your closing tag, and the matter in between them is the content. So any questions regarding this? If no questions, just say no questions and we will move ahead. So I would ask everyone to participate as much as you can, because the more you participate, the more you would get doubts. The more you get doubts, the more it would be clear to you. Perfect. So everyone is able to understand. I'll quickly clear my screen and we would move to the next part. Now, the next part is I'll quickly remove these elements as of now. We understand what an element is. I'll quickly remove this and I'll save my file and reload the page. So now my web page is completely blank because there is no content. And to check if this is the file being rendered on web page, just go over here and see. This is the first file.html being rendered, no content, nothing to display on web browser. Now let's see how actual HTML structure looks like. There are multiple ways to write it. We saw that if you write the VS Code provides you many, I would say, recommendations. Okay, you want to choose this one or that one, and so much more. So in this particular abbreviation, this emmet software that is running along with VS Code is having an HTML also. So whenever you write HTML, select HTML5 and a boilerplate would pop up. This is called a boilerplate. This is what the initial structure of an HTML code looks like. So I'm just closing this sidebar for more visibility. So this is called a boilerplate, right? Now, let's understand different parts of a boilerplate. Okay, let's go through it one by one, what everything in the boilerplate means. So we understood what head and body is. Let's see what all it is containing in its boilerplate. Okay, so let's move to this part. I'll just go over here. Okay.
Shakib is asking a question, Rahul. He says, can you repeat it again? We just write HTML and then
Okay.
HTML5 will appear. And then
I'll
we just,
quickly remove this part and I'll repeat it again. So there are two ways. I'll tell you. If it is not appearing, just write exclamation. An exclamation would give you the same boilerplate. Just try with exclamation if it is not happening, but it should appear. So if you write simple HTML also, if you're getting this emmet abbreviation, you must be getting few options. If you select only HTML, then it would be a simple tag. So just try. So is it working, Shakib? Perfect. So I'll quickly go back to my structure of HTML file. So HTML5 would give you this one. Now the difference is if you write only HTML, you would get this particular tag, only the HTML part, not the doc type HTML. Now let's understand each line of this. Let's see what each line means. So this boilerplate is very much necessary for our browsers. The browser need this boilerplate. Why? This line, this particular line, the doc type HTML tells what version we are using, version of HTML. Now a browser gets to know which version we are using. You remember I selected HTML5. Now HTML5 is the version, 5 is the version number. And when this particular line browser sees in my HTML file, it knows, okay, this is as per the standards under HTML5. The second line is this one, the HTML. Now HTML is a tag. It is opening and closing. This is the tag in which the entire code lies. Remember, we have drawn a structure. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Now this 1 is the root element. Remember, initially we studied root element. This root element is your HTML. Root element contains your head and body. Everything. This lies between opening HTML and closing HTML. Closing HTML tag. This is the space where this entire head and body lies. And this element is called your root element. Everything, the HTML over here and HTML over here, everything should lie in between this. In between this, right? So I'm just clearing this as of now.
Rahul, before
Yeah.
we jump in, I had one question in terms of the other coding languages such as Java. When we code, right, if we write it with the capital, it means something else. But if we write it with smaller caps, it means something else. Does HTML follow any structure as like that, or it is not case sensitive?
So the HTML follows, like if we write some tags, it would always have the smaller case. We need to make sure the case needs to be smaller. Every HTML tag has a smaller case. So always make sure it's in the lower case. Every HTML tag is in lowercase. Whenever we write, it should be in lowercase. Let's try something. So let me do one thing. I'll just clear this off. And if I write some tag, let's see. So what happens is if I write H1 over here, and if I write capital H1, so this one, this is heading. And if I save this and if I reload, this would come. This would automatically be converted to lowercase. Just see. If I again show it like this, now if I hit save, automatically my prettier is converting it to lowercase. So the HTML elements must be. So let's say I'm trying to write something else. So HTML elements, I would say, are case sensitive, but the prettier is making it simpler for us. It is formatting the code as per the given standards. So always make sure the codes must be in the lower case. And if we search it on broader terms, so we can say it also as they are a case insensitive. So because whenever we write anything, automatically under the hood, it would be converted to lowercase. So HTML is case insensitive. It would be converted as per the standards.
Yeah, so that's why what the question, the reason I asked this question was the same, that our participants should remember that HTML from one end is not a case sensitive
Exactly.
language. It
So,
means if you write an H1 with capital H, or you write it with small caps, it doesn't matter, right? While in other languages, in other coding languages, that might be of a concern. For instance, in Java, if you write instead of string, which is use for words, it will not accept it if you write it with the small letter, right? You have to write the first letter should be capital. So, but in HTML, it's not case sensitive, but it's preferred, as Rahul said, it's preferred to keep it small caps.
That's absolutely correct, because it's a good practice that always keep your HTML code written in lowercase. However, it is not case sensitive, but if you get into a habit of writing HTML code in uppercase, that it might seem difficult to follow the best practices later on. So from the beginning, always make sure you follow the best practices, and the best practice to write HTML is in lowercase. So shall we move ahead? And if someone's asking that why is there no version number such as 5 with HTML? So that might be because they don't want to clutter everything on the page. They must be using it behind the scenes, so it becomes more readable for the developers and other developers. And always latest versions of HTML are being used. Whenever something gets updated, it gets implemented with the previous versions, and we can use it directly. So might be due to the standards decided by the HTML community, I would say.
Yeah,
So,
one more thing here, Rahul. You guys see this doc type HTML, okay? This doc type HTML itself refers that it is HTML5.
right.
Yeah.
So this points to the HTML5. That's why we selected the particular one. Okay. So let's move ahead and see what the next line means. So very important thing that we discussed right now, that it is case insensitive, and make sure you follow the best practices and always code in lowercase. Perfect. Very nice point. And the best part of being in coding line is sometimes we as experienced developers keep on working on bigger projects, but we tend to miss out some basic points that we started when we were beginning with the language. But when we sit together and everyone is working, we get to refresh our concepts, and we are able to understand the language in a much better way. Wonderful. Let's move ahead. This is the version. This tells us the version. The doc type tells us the version. This is the root element. And this is the language EN, that is English. So you must have seen when we were checking the network request response, there was a content language being there. So if I just inspect this panel, I'll show you. Let's inspect this panel and I'll go to the network tab. Now, if I refresh this page, I'm getting some network files. And if I click on one of the responses, okay, let's see if we're able to get that. Content type, are we able to see? Let's see on a real website. Inspect, and I'll go to the network tab. I'll quickly refresh. And if I select this one, I'll select this one. Content, see, content type must be over here. So yeah, over here you see language EN US or EN and some other coding being written. So that is where it is mentioning. HTML is already mentioning that for us. That okay, the main language in which this code is written is the English words, but that must be converted by browser and other things that we've studied in previous lectures. So we can find the language, accepted language is the EN as per US standards, and so on. So this was one way to check, okay, where we are putting these kind of information later on web page. I'll come back to our page.
Yeah, and Rahul, let me quickly share my screen. I
Okay.
have something to describe on it on this doc type very
Okay.
quickly
Okay.
to our participants. that might be useful. Mhm. All good. Sorry for the interruption. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Talash.
Okay, so yesterday I shared with all of you that this W3 school, right? So if you go there and see these HTML types and directly click on the doc types, it will provide you with the explanation. If you see here, it describes it particularly that for HTML5, the declaration is very simple, and that is the doc type HTML, right? So that refers to HTML5. While in the older versions of the HTML, you see, we have here like this doc type HTML, which describes its HTML5. But for older version, there was this doc type HTML public W3. And then you see in here, it has the version inside it, DTD version. So when we are using this doc type HTML directly, this itself shows that it's HTML5, while in the older versions, they mention the version as well for each of them. So remember this in the future. Meanwhile, I mean, you don't, as we said, it's not also case sensitive. You can write doc type all in capitals. You can write doc in capital type. And again, you see these structures, it doesn't matter. You can write it at any of them. But as Rahul suggested, that follow the best practices. If you see when we were talking that tags should be like in small cases, right? But while we see the doc type HTML, the doc type is written in capital. So it's a best practice they do it, even if we follow the preferred one, the one we preferred at doc type with the small caps, it will still not have will not give us any issue. You can give it a try later on. Keep exploring this W3 alongside as we go as well.
Quickly
Yeah,
share
yeah.
my screen. Thank you, Talash. That was a wonderful explanation, and that really makes things very clear for every participant, I believe, that why doc type is now being used and why they've omitted the entire line, because now that directly points to the HTML5 document. Great. So let's move ahead and see the other elements. The other elements, this is HTML, that is root element in which the entire web page would be there, your head as well as your body. Next comes your head, this head part. Now head part, if I have to write over here, head contains the metadata. What is metadata? That is some additional information for browsers to recognize, to see what everything is coming. For instance, the UTF-8, that is character set, that is ASCII values are there. We would be studying UTF-8 and character set later on. So this is the language rules in the boundaries in which the language lies. So that is the character set, UTF-8. And then some different information like viewport. Viewport would be coming. Viewport is defined as like the viewing space that you are visible, that you are able to see on your page. How much viewport is available and everything else. Initial scaling and compatibility with other devices. And one of the other things is this title. The title comes over here. So if I change my title, if I quickly go over here and change my title, let's say I'll write my I'll write my web page, and if I hit save, just see the title of my web page has changed. Right, you're able to view this one, my web page. So this is the place where we can change the title of our web page, and that comes under head. Over here, the web page, the my web page. Now, Moving ahead, this is the body, and now this is the closing tag. Head has an opening tag, head has a closing tag. So this makes it an element, and it has various other tags in between. Similarly, this is body, and body has another element in between. So body has a opening tag and body has a closing tag. All the content that we see lies within the body. And the closing tag for a root element is this one. So I can write multiple elements over here, like we just saw H2. If I write H2 and I write uh, this is heading 2, and if I hit save, now automatically my live server is working. Because I have incorporated the head and body structure, the actual structure of my web page, which contains a head that contains all the required information for the web page along with the title, and that contains body, which contains the content part. The content part is further subdivided into different tags as we require. So we can add an image, we can add some other text and so on. Now that information comes towards the variety of tags that we would be studying. Right now, just understand the boilerplate. This is called a boilerplate, in which initially just you're getting initial information. You have not written yourself anything else. So that tells you the version, that provides you the root element. Root element has two parts, head and body. Head has all the important information along with title, and body is the space wherein we write the content part of our web page. So any doubts in the boiler part and any doubts in the content structure, in the HTML file structure before we move ahead?
Yeah,
How
later
to,
on we
yeah,
will know. We will know. Inside the header, we in the future you will see when we are adding CSS and we have to link the CSS changes, we need to connect it with our HTML, right? In
that's
such a
right.
case, within this header, right? In
You can
there,
write, yeah.
we will be
So this is
feeding
the
the,
link, yeah.
yeah, we
So
will be
when you want
feeding
to
the
connect a
CSS.
file, this is the link. And here you put the name of the file, and here you put the path of the file. Href is hypertext reference that would point to the file. So this is one way we can connect the file. And that comes to the header part, head part. This we would be studying once we add the CSS part. There are two ways to link a CSS, either inline CSS or it could be an external CSS. So we would study both of them. This is the way we link an external file. So head, just understand all that information which is not visible on the web page along with the title. Body, all the information that is visible on the web page. And how to get this boilerplate, this is very important. Just write HTML5 or write exclamation, because you just see the exclamation. This is the starting line. The doc type starts with exclamation. And if I remove this, if I write exclamation, my VS Code knows what kind of information I'm looking. Is it 3 exclamation? There must be something. If I write this, look, this comes only as a doc type HTML, nothing more. If I want entire boilerplate, I'll just select the first option, the one with single exclamation, and that would come over here because my doc type starts with the exclamation. If we had to write heading 1, we just write H and we write this one. We get both opening and closing tag. And in between, we write the content. So just make sure whenever now today, you're able to generate this boilerplate, and within body, you can write H1 tag. We have studied H1 tag, write some heading and change the title of your web page. Instead of document, just change it to something else, anything you wish your web page to display when you open the tab. So if I save this file, the title has been changed. It is back to document and there is no content, so nothing to display. Any doubts for today's session regarding today's session, do let me know.
Yeah, before we wrap it up, I have an announcement to make participants who be in the class. If
Okay.
no, then yeah, Rahul, let's wrap the class app. and I have an announcement for the class to make.
Sure. I don't think we have any doubts. Everything is pretty clear to our participants. So let's proceed further. I'll quickly stop sharing my screen. And from tomorrow, we'll understand the different tags of the HTML and their characteristics and attributes. So we would study what different tags and how we can shape a particular web page as per our requirements. So thank you everyone for joining today. I'll quickly stop sharing my screen.